Hello and welcome to another edition of Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rassa. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. If you like this video, please push like and share it with your family, neighbors, friends, enemies, exes, whatever. Story I'm about to share with you is a scumbag move. I was involved with the gang called the Dirty White Boys, and the D does stand for something. That's all I'm going to say. This takes place in the United States Penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. In 2006, I was kind of thrown off by that before I started, but it's 2006. The Asians. Now, what does that mean in prison, actually? When I refer to the Asians, I'm talking about usually guys that are Korean, Chinese, and so forth. Japanese, whatever. The Asian car at Leavenworth was like 40 deep. So they did have a shot caller. These guys were all Asians from all over the United States. All kinds of different gangs, a lot of different Asian gangs. One of my good friends, Roger, who's Asian, was a Green Dragon out of New York. Anyway, at Lewisburg, for a couple years, there was only a handful, maybe like 3. The Asians do have a section in the chow hall, and that section was always open. There was only a couple guys there. And then came a guy who I will call Lee, okay? I knew Lee from Leavenworth, and he was a dope boy. He had a life sentence. He's Chinese. Some murder gang charge. Most of them do have murders. A lot of them did, I should say. I said most of them do. I don't know now. A lot of the Asians that I knew had murder charges. He was no different. Small guy. Very respectful, hard to get close to. Very, very hard. He was the man. This dude hit dope frequently. He'd back off sometimes for 6 months or more when it got hot. But he always had really, really good tar that he got in. For the longest, people, so people that get high, kind of get mad at this guy sometimes because you had to be close to him. You had to be right up next to him in order to get some drugs from him. He didn't put out like grams and stuff like that. He put out papers mostly. He would go up to a gram, but he was charging more. He was looking for the person that was a user, not a seller. He was a smart guy, really, really smart. We were sociable, but not friends by any means. I was friends with Roger, his sidekick, who he did look down on because Roger did dope. So I want to say there's probably 5 or 6 Asians at the time at Lewisburg. 3 of them I know had put in steel before, so put one of the Asians into the corner and they come out with knives. Especially this Lee guy I was talking about, and that was been my experience in federal prison. There then was a guy by the name of Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu was late 60s, former big-time heroin dealer who was in the block with me, Dusty, and my friend Tommy. One day, Roger tells me, let me back up. One day, somebody said that the Asians hit some dope. Dusty went and asked Roger. Roger denied it for about a day or 2. Then he was too high to deny it. And he finally admitted that, yes, there was dope. No, you can't get any. He doesn't know where it's going to go, who's going to get it. That's because Lee picked his shots. Then it came out that they were opening up a sports betting operation. Now, I'm probably going to do a video about how the whole betting stuff works in prison, but let's just say this. Let's say I'm going to start a ticket today. I'm the money, okay? So I have to make sure I have stamps. So I have to buy or hustle up a bunch of stamps. Usually want a couple $1,000s worth or more to start a ticket. You then have to either have a source on the outside who can tell you the lines of the day from Vegas over the telephone. You then have to have guys that have access to copiers so you can print up your gambling tickets or gambling slips. You then have to have runners in every unit or whatever unit you're going to put your ticket out in. Lee was the backer of the ticket. He was the brains of the Asian ticket. At the time, there were 3 good-sized tickets in Lewisburg. There was Miles Coker, who was by far the biggest and the best ticket. Then you had Mark Ryder and Little Mark. Little Mark was from Ohio. Him and Mark Ryder knew each other. They had a decent-sized ticket. Then you had a Puerto Rican from New York named Duarte, Duarte liked to party, all right? So there was times if you're playing his ticket that you better realize he might not have the money. Not saying he was bad pay. I've gotten situations with him where I had to wait a couple days. But he was, I mean, he partied, he got high and he gambled and he did all that. So, I mean, he was in the mix. What I had done is I started a freeze out in my block. I had a store, guys would come in, they want to gamble. A freeze out's basically gambling on credit. You set a limit, $200, for example. If they lose 200 before, if they lose 200, they pay you. If they win 200, you pay them. It's gambling on credit. A couple of other guys were trying to come out with tickets. Now, let me tell you something. It's not really good to have a lot of tickets because everybody's not making so much money. The money's too spread out when you have a lot. When the Asians came out, I knew that Lee had deep pockets, or he can get dope to cover a big bank of stamps. Let's put it that way. He who has the biggest bank of stamps stays in business in the bad times when everybody wins, goes in cycles. So I knew he was capable of it. And I happened to tell, I think Mark Ryder and for sure Miles Coker, because they would sit back and watch and say, okay, here comes a new ticket. They'd kind of a couple weeks later, that ticket would be gone. That's basically how it worked. I then set off. So when somebody starts a new ticket and they're kind of a threat to the bigger guys shoot at them to try to take them out. The guy that runs the biggest ticket will have his other guys gamble on that ticket to try to win. They'll pick a game that's like almost a for sure lock or something, and they'll just try to smash the guy. Well, one morning, Dusty comes in the block and he says, man, that dude Lee's got dope, man. It's really pissing me off because I can't get some, blah, 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 this and that. And we were talking about the ticket, and he's like, the ticket that they're starting. And he's like, man, we need to hit their ticket and then tell them we'll take dope instead of stamps. Or something of that nature. Well, I've said this before many times. I used to play single bets for $600, 6 to win 5, pretty much every day during basketball season for sure. But this was, football and basketball season were on, but what I'm about to tell you took place during football season, college football specifically. Mr. Yu lived in our block. He would be considered a runner for Lee, although he wasn't really passing out tickets. What he did is he would go to guys who liked to gamble, 5 or 6 of them, the guys that had money, and he'd, then put a ticket out. Now, normally, this is how it works. A runner comes in, about 5 o'clock or right after dinner or right after count clears, the evening 4 o'clock count clears. The ticket runners will get the slips from the guy who runs the ticket or a guy that he assigns. They'll walk down the hall, they'll pass out the tickets. The runners will then go in the block and pass out tickets to everybody that gambles. By last move or 7:30 move, or if you're playing a 6 o'clock game, you better have your ticket in by 5:30, whatever. You have your ticket in to the runner, and the runner then brings it back to the guy who's running, who the owner of the ticket, the guy who started the ticket. So the runner never gets to hold the tickets. That can open up a door to a lot of fraud. For example, if I'm a runner and I hold the ticket, and we have a deal where I don't have to bring the tickets back down to the end of the block to the guy who owns the ticket. What's there to keep me from going to a friend of mine and then finagling, saying, hey, you hit this ticket, because that guy down there who runs the ticket has no knowledge of what the guys in the block, what they're betting. Well, there was two guys when I was at Leavenworth that were old that can hold on to the betting slips. In other words, they didn't have to turn it into their bosses. Miles Coker had a guy named Toke. Toke didn't have to turn it in. He can give it to Miles the next day and say this guy won or lost. Miles trusted him. And likewise, Mr. U was the same way. When he agreed to do the ticket down in F block, he said, I'm not gonna run to the doors. I'm not gonna go past it. And they said, fine. Well, Mr. U always wore the same Fed issued coat, same coat every day, no matter what else he wore. And he always ate a top ramen noodle at nighttime. That's what he ate for dinner every night. A top ramen noodle, plain, butt naked. I had played that ticket, and when I gave him the ticket, he never even looked. He would just put it in his jacket pocket. When the morning came and Dusty told me that there was dope and he was mad about this, we started to devise a little scheme, hatch a little scheme, and that was, I was already getting ready to bet a 5-pick on the Asian ticket that day. The reason was because the night before I had won $100. I was gonna then take that $100 and go ahead and bet a 5-pick and try to bust their ass. That's a $2,000 return. Well, we then started plotting and realizing, hey, no matter what happens, we can go just switch a ticket out and old Mr. U sell it in his jacket pocket. Actually, stop. That's not how it happened. I apologize. What had happened was I picked a 5-pick. They were early games. It was like a Saturday or something. And I had won 4 games and I was waiting on an evening game. That's what it was. During that time, or there were still 2 games, I think I'd won 3. During that time is when we came up with the idea. That's me and Dusty primarily. Tommy was there. He really didn't do much. And yes, that's Tommy Reynolds. What we did was we said, okay, we're gonna, tomorrow morning when he wakes up, if we lose, because I was already 3 games up, we're gonna switch his ticket and we're gonna get him for $2,000. And then when they go to pay us, we'll say, hey, we'll take dope. Well, I won the 4th game. I think the late game was Hawaii or something, and the Hawaii games, like, you got to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning. Got up early. I lost by a point. Mr. U didn't wake up usually until after 10:30. And on the weekends, there's a 10 o'clock count, so he didn't get out until after count. Tommy Reynolds would go from his cell after count to the TV room, watch TV for a little while until chow. Me and Dusty put this together. Tommy's job in this was to keep Mr. U in the TV room as long as he can. If he decides to try to jet out real quick. We needed about 3 minutes. I say we, actually Dusty went in the cell. I kept point. When Mr. U woke up, I did not say that I hit the ticket. We didn't say nothing. Every morning he would get up and he'd go right to the sports TV, and he would look at and see who won what the point spread was. Well, he did that. Dusty goes in his cell. We had to wait for his cellie to leave too. The jacket's hanging up on a pole, like a coat rack almost. Actually, it was a hook on the wall. Dusty walks in, grabs, boom, there's my ticket, boom, replaces it with the winning ticket. Once Dusty was done, I waited for Mr. U to walk out of the TV room, like, hey, when are you paying me? He's like, huh? I'm like, when are you paying me? He's like, what do you mean pay me? And I said, I won. You know, won. And I said, yeah, I won. He said, no, you did. He named what I bet. And I said, no, I didn't. No, I bet the other way. He goes, huh? And he goes back and he looks and he's squinching he's looking, he goes, okay. 12 o'clock after chow, I get a message that they want to see me on the yard, the Asian dudes. And, you know, I mean, I'm all in now. I mean, this is like the first time I've ever been talked to. I'm all in now. So whatever happened, you know, and there's Lee. And he said, you put this ticket? This is the ticket you put? Yeah. You, Mr. You are friends? I said, yeah, we're friends. And he says, yeah. He says, 5-pick, you want a 5-pick? And I said, yeah. He said, okay. He goes, look, I got a problem. And I said, what's that? He said, I started the ticket with not too much money. And I said, yeah. And he goes, how about I give you $1,000 in stamps, $1,000 in dope, 2 grams of tar. Ding, 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 ding. That's what we were aiming for. And that's exactly what happened. After that, me and Lee actually developed a really good friendship. And I became the guy that he wouldn't go to nobody else and he would just come to me. And then I would disperse it to a couple of my friends or whatever. And had that package on lock. So yeah, there's a scumbag move. That's what happened. Like I said, the D stands for dirty. I was not innocent all my life. I actually, at that time is when I just started using again. I did almost 3 years clean at Lewisburg after I found out I contracted Hep C and had cancer. And that's when I just started going again. And yeah, I was running the car. Had the keys to the Dirty White Boys. Had some status in the prison. Didn't need the money. It was just a game. Just a dangerous game to be played. But I played the prison. Got off on it. And man, let me tell you, it was a rush. It was a rush. It was a rush when it all worked out sweet. There it is. Have a good one.